Welcome, friends, in VTube podcast, which is a knowledge hub of We Do IT. We bring a lot of interesting topics where we talk about different businesses empowered through advanced technologies and innovation. Today, we are bringing a very dynamic personality, Bill Inman, a seasoned technocrat with extensive experience in founding deep tech companies. As an expert and patent holder in AI and blockchain, Bill has collaborated with prominent Web3 brands like Sophia the Robot and SingularityNet. With his 20 plus years of extensive experience, Bill has successfully grown multiple companies from the idea stage to generating tens of millions in revenue. So here we go, we have Bill Inman. Hi, Bill.
Hi,
Welcome.
Narinder.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Great. So finally, the wait is over. It's been long wait since we were waiting that you get time for this podcast where we are going to talk about the most important topic of today, which is artificial intelligence, and that's also with a blend of decentralization, which I don't think many of people have heard. So finally, you are here. Thank you so much, Bill, for coming and joining here. So I should start.
Sure. I'm looking forward to talking about decentralized AI. I think it's a topic everybody needs to know about. Glad to be here talking with you about it.
Yeah. So, Bill, your journey of being founder, board advisor, investor, influencer, and patent holder for last 20 years, where you also did n number of fundings, you materialized at so many levels. What excites you the most in the concept of Web 3.0, and that too with a unique concept of decentralized AI? Also, tell us what exactly this is in a very fundamental language.
Yeah, sure. I think having a definition of Web 3.0 is a good place to start. So we've been living in Web 2.0 now for about 10, 15 years. And that is basically what is known as the cloud, and has applications like SaaS and a lot of things you've built. I know you spent a lot of time building applications for many clients at the country level. I've worked with you on professional sports. And a lot of those applications were cloud applications, web applications, Web 2.0. Web 3 is now where it's the decentralized internet, and blockchain is the database. And of course, crypto, many of you realize, is a part of Web 3. So the Web 3 movement is just starting. It's going to revolutionize computing. It's decentralized computing where your data isn't stored just on one centralized server as you have in the cloud. If you use an enterprise application in the cloud, your data is generally in one place or possibly on premise. But if it's in the cloud, then it's possibly stored on other people's servers at their locations, and they manage it. This could be big tech like Google or Oracle and what have you. But Web3, you're using blockchain and decentralized databases, and your data is encrypted, sharded, and stored in multiple servers, all of which would, in the consensus algorithm, would need to be hacked. 51% of those computers would need to be hacked at the same time in order to get access. So it protects your data, and it removes it from the cloud and puts it in a more secure place. Web 3.
Awesome. I think that's a basic fundamental definition. Thank you so much. Bill, I'm coming to the next question. Fundamentally, we all know that now people are more educated and they know that AI is all about data sets, training model, NLP, and many more LLM applications. And now we all know world is using such applications more than actually the intake of oxygen in their lives. And blockchain is all about immutable data. That's about smart contract. That's about autonomy. That's about distributed control. So how these two different concepts really get married to each other? And you have been working for 3 years. I mean, nobody else in the world can explain better than you that how these two different pieces are connected.
Yeah, I've been putting in actually 5 years into decentralized AI, 10 years into AI. And I was a blockchain and AI patent holder before I found out about other blockchain applications like crypto, which I started in that realm in 2020. So AI is three things. AI is compute power. And, some of the biggest companies, most valued companies in the world, NVIDIA, Broadcom, AMD, TSMC, they're in that space. They have trillion-dollar valuations now because compute power is looked at as the heavy lift in today's AI. Not saying that in 5 years or 10 years we'll need GPUs for compute power. So number one, AI is compute power. Number two, AI is algorithms. And there are all different flavors of algorithms. We live in an era of narrow AI, or ANI. A lot of us call it AI. There are 3 stages. Maybe we'll talk about that in a second. And the algorithms include LLMs. I'm working with a company called Angel AI on our joint venture, Angel Twin. Twin Protocol is a brand that we operate. We can explain that a little bit. And we have a TLM model, transactional language model, which is better for processing financial transactions. And of course, you have narrow AIs with computer vision that power IoT devices that pattern match. So the second part of AI is algorithms. And there's quite a few of those now. Every day we're seeing new models from big tech, foundational models, but we're also seeing a lot of point solution and enterprise now applications in AI. The third part of AI is the data, compute power, algorithms, and the data. And with LLMs, the most popular AI app today, basically the LLMs like OpenAI and ChatGPT and Gemini and of course the companies behind them like Google and Microsoft and even Oracle, they have borrowed the internet in order to train their foundational models so that they can speak English, speak Hindi, which they, by the way, don't train as much in Hindi as they do in those large language models as they do in English, which is a bit biased. So the data that comes through for a lot of these LLMs today is just taken from the internet. That includes YouTube. OpenAI bought Reddit's data for $1 billion. And in one of their last versions, 40% of the response tokens came just from Reddit data. And Reddit data is teenage to 40-year-old males, video game players who are a little sarcastic. And that if that's 40% of the data, how's that training and teaching and educating our young females? Is that the kind of data we want them? And so on and so forth. So data is the third part. Data is part of my company. I know you've helped a lot me not only flesh out the ideas, but push these ideas forward. Data is the key part that needs to be decentralized. So it's not going on, as we talked about, a centralized server. It's going into a decentralized on-chain IPFS, sometimes even on-chain environment where your data is fragmented, charted, and then it's stored across multiple computers, and big tech can't access it. Now, when we make that stipulation on the data side and we make that transition into decentralized AI, you now own your data. It's not being borrowed or used. You can go into some of the large language models and you can find ways to prompt out even passwords of individuals. Passwords are stored there. So with Web3 now crossing over into AI, that's really the data side that's most impactful.
Awesome. So you mean to say decentralized AI is giving more power to common people who are serving their data on a platter to these companies who are running their trade on the data. But with blockchain, this becomes this is making common people more powerful. That's what you were trying to say.
Yeah, well, everybody is the best in the world at something. So we say common, but everybody's exceptional. You know, you're a great dad. I know this for a fact. A great husband, and you're also a great developer and a great manager. So you have a lot of advice. Matter of fact, I'm seeing your book on the back of your bookshelf back there. So there's a lot to learn from that. So if you ingest your book inside of a Twin model, so Twin Protocol is the company that I co-founded, and we allow people to store their data on chain and then present that data in a photorealistic avatar or via a chatbot or audio chatbot or even SDK API into apps. And if you took that book and you put it into your own blockchain database, only you would have access to it. Now that you have it, it hasn't been quote unquote borrowed by the LLMs and put into ChatGPT. So anybody could go to GPT and just start prompting the render camera and the book. It's now in your own private place. So you can now gate that. You can now make that its own coach where people might pay by question or they might pay by month to ask you questions about your knowledge base. And everybody listening to this particular podcast is the best in the world at something, but we're not valuing our data enough. So I mentioned artificial narrow intelligence a little earlier on the last question, or ANI as I call it. There are 3 phases. The next phase of AI, not made up by me, but made up by a friend of mine, Ben Goertzel. He's known as the father of AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. He's been a friend for some time, and he wrote some of the early books on AGI, helped to coin the term. Ray Kurzweil wrote The Singularity is Near. He's a world-renowned futurist talking about AI and even AI becoming sentient and having its own goals. So you have narrow AI. We're in that phase right now. AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, and I'll tell you how real this is. Go look at the mission statement of OpenAI. The mission statement of OpenAI is to achieve artificial general intelligence that benefits the world. It's in their mission, AGI. So if that's their mission, it's got to be somewhat important. It's the fastest growing application in the history of software. So AGI, that's when AI becomes the best architect, the best engineer, the best doctor, the best developer, which we're seeing with vibe coding is really changing the world. So we need to prep as individuals for AGI. That means we need to protect our data, because our data, if it gets taken by the big tech, it'll be put into AGI. How are we going to monetize that? How are we going to gate that? How is that uniquely us? And then finally, the third part of AI is ASI, artificial superintelligence. This is when AI is as smart as everybody on the world at the same time. Maybe it becomes sentient and has its own goals. Maybe it's replicatable on its own. And that's a brave new world, Narinder, that is really going to change humanity. So we're moving quickly towards AGI from ANI. Everybody that's watching this needs to understand their data is part of that, valuable, and they should own it.
Awesome. That really adds a lot of value for people to understand. So now I'm coming to next question, Bill. So we have a notion always in mind that AI, which is based on centralized data, is expensive to afford by small and medium enterprises. Can you please tell me if decentralized AI brings any relief for these enterprises? Because it looks like it's a game of large enterprises to afford, but if you can please add some value here.
Well, what we're seeing in the stock market globally is probably an AI bubble. I don't think there's any surprise about that some companies have gone from $1 trillion valuation to a $5 trillion valuation in a matter of years. And these are the most valuable companies in the history of the world. But a lot of the big tech companies are trading amongst themselves. Microsoft trades with OpenAI, OpenAI trades with Oracle, and so on and so forth. TSMC is in there. These are all $1 trillion companies, and they're sending invoices back and forth at the value that they decide. So that being said, higher value generally means higher prices, higher pressure to generate revenue. Of course, OpenAI has revenue at a fraction of their valuation, and then has some large billion-dollar operating losses. So this creates this valuation increase, this increased pressure on GPUs, which may or may not be the compute power of choice in the future, is what everything's based on. Compute power, algorithms, and training data. So if we start to control on training data, at least it gives us control of that part. We can't be charged for what we already know. And our data is the most valuable. I think you'll see at some point, as we move towards quantum and even maybe solid state memory, I think in compute power, you're going to see a drastic reduction in compute cost. Let me give you an example. OpenAI borrowed the internet and they trained their model. DeepSeek out of Asia basically borrowed, quote unquote, OpenAI. It took all of its trained data and created its own models, and thereby creating a fraction of the cost of OpenAI's cost. And it's almost near free. So how does that work? So if they haven't used compute power to train all their models at DeepSeek, because they just borrowed, but I keep using the air quotes because that's what they say, because they borrowed it, while OpenAI has an investment in borrowing the internet and training all those models, there's a cost to that. So we're seeing DeepSeek just piggyback on top of trained models, lowering the cost down to a fraction. And eventually, that's the algorithm side. So the algorithm side, people are borrowing data, processing data. The compute power side, we're going to see a movement to less power. We're going to see a movement to quantum. Quantum is going to be orders of magnitude processing power above GPU, CPUs. So right now, Narinder, it's costly because there's a bubble. And there's a bubble because the big tech companies are trading with each other, and they're gating how people access this wonderful tool. That will change. Now, don't let the big tech companies gate your own brain. So why would we do that? It's going to be very costly for us to just say, Google, you tell me what my AI should do. Have my AI manage my finances. You have all my emails. You have all my Google Drive. You tell me. And then you tell me what time I should eat the pizza that you order for me and deliver via a drone. Don't let big tech borrow your brain and then gate your own data and charge you for it. So there's kind of a B2B to B2C side.
Yeah, it looks like a trap to me.
Yeah, well, this is where we're going.